Sorry, guys. I had live stream open.
I can see it's gonna be a long night. I ain't gonna stop until I get it right. I don't wanna sing no Jeremiah. I'd really love to say things just ain't that bad. Oh, how we love our denial, a comfort to cover up the shame. But the truth is standing on trial. And I've got proof that we're all to blame. Oh, my fellow Americans, are we reaping our harvest of greed? Have we built our house on sinking sand? Why are we being ugly Americans?
Welcome to Weekdays Live. This is a fresh week on Monday. We've got some fabulous news. I'm CJ Holmes, founder of Homeowners for Justice and your host for today's show. And also, unfortunately, the producer. So now and then I make a mistake. But anyway, we're gaining ground. I'm super excited. I'm going to share with you, I got some information from the California Attorney General's office on Friday after last week's show. I'm going to share that with you. I'm going to explain exactly how we proceed, how I think we should proceed. And I really, really feel that now we're getting a little bit of movement in the people's direction. So we've got to really push now. Really push now. We've got news articles, we've got lawsuits, we've got various and sundry things happening in different states. So I'm going to talk about that. We're going to talk about New York, about Texas, about California in particular today. But we're also going to take a quick look at a couple of other really scary things. One is in the past, how literally they now have proven with the stats that subprime lending is connected to congressional districts and representatives. So there is no mistake about it. It is a system that is ripe with corruption. And until, I agree with Lawrence Lessig, until we limit campaign financing, we will never get representatives that can last, that can stay elected, because they'll always be bought off, scared off, or some other campaign will push them out of office in favor of the vested interest. So anyway, and they're also going to prosecute people that are strategically defaulting. Oh my goodness. So here's a quick summary of the news, and then I just really want to move forward into the violations. I want to review the foreclosure violations, the kinds of things that are gaining traction. I feel like we're just clawing our way, trying to get some justice in this country, trying to get some criminal prosecutions. And I do believe that the effort is well advised and that we need to just continue and ramp it up. So for today, let's start with the New York Attorney General, Schneiderman.
Want to get some breaking news here on big banks and some mortgage settlements. Diana Olick has that. Hey, Diana.
Hey, that's right. New York Attorney General Eric Schneiderman announcing that he intends to sue Bank of America and Wells Fargo over the $26 billion mortgage servicing settlement that was signed at the beginning of last year. He said in a release today, since October 2012, the Attorney General's office has documented 339 violations of standards agreed to by Wells Fargo and Bank of America in last year's settlement. Victims of the institution's violations will speak firsthand about their experiences at a press conference today. You'll remember that the National Mortgage Servicing Settlement involved 50 state attorneys general, as well as the Justice Department, involving so-called robo-signing. That was problems having to do with foreclosure documentations. Part of the settlement was to improve servicing standards, and apparently the New York Attorney General says that is not happening. We do know that the banks have done billions of dollars, $6 billion so far, of principal forgiveness under the settlement, but those servicing standards were the crux of this settlement, and the New York AG saying they have not been following the rules. We'll find out more later today. We're, of course, contacting B of A and Wells Fargo, and we'll get their reactions if we should get them as soon as possible. Back to you.
Their reactions. Oh, sure. You and I already know what they're going to say. Oh, there's nothing to say about it. And, of course, my comments on this article, on just that little video clip. One is the violations. She didn't say what those were. Notice. Because actually the violations are they are still robo-signing, they are still forging, they are still doing false notarizations, they are still using fake beneficiaries, they're still, completely faking all of the foreclosure paperwork. That is the violation. And then the fact that he only has 339 violations, are you kidding me? He should have like 300,000 violations. And that's the goal. Come on, guys. We can get all the violations. That's what we need to do next. Here's an article about New York to sue B of A, Wells Fargo over mortgage practices. And again, these are the violations in the consent judgments. So if you have any questions about what that consent judgment included, they're all linked on my website, HOFJ.org. Go to the foreclosure defense page. It's foreclosure defense, and then the first page in that long list is called foreclosure defense, and then I believe it's right under item number 1, which is filing an OCC complaint. And down there I have linked every consent judgment for the mega banks and every OCC cease and desist order. And literally some of these lawsuits where we're getting we're clawing our way into some good judgments for the people, it includes violations of these agreements. So let's hammer them on that. Let's bring out that as a violation. And I'll show you again, I'm going to go through my worksheet today and refresh you, everyone, about how these violations work and what they are, so that you can find them on your docs and then you can send them to me. Because I believe, and I'll discuss this in a minute, but I believe that people need to make sure that we know what's being sent. We're in an era of the dog ate my homework. I cannot believe how many times there's an argument from the bank, from a servicer, from somebody about, oh, I never got it. So we have to make sure that we don't fall into that trap. Now, before we go into the violations, I wanted to share this with you. This is congressional influence as a determinant of subprime lending. Yes, it did matter who your representative was if you were targeted as for subprime lending. And I believe that we need to make this known to everybody that they picked on the districts, the regions of the Congress people that had the most influence in Congress. So whoever had the most influence, their people got the most subprime lending. So now their districts are hurt the worst, directly as a result. So look at these charts. You can read the article later, but I'm just summarizing it to you. When they analyze these, they just analyzed New Century Financial Corporation because they were horrible, and everything they had, these are just loan level data. Just where did they get made from 2003 to 2006? And they have analyzed them according to zip code level and then what representative in Congress they had at the time. It's really not tricky. A lot of data, but it's not terribly tricky to look at this. Now look at this. Look at the distribution. And here they do it specifically in California and in the San Francisco Bay Area. And what I wanted to point out down here is that the conclusion, their findings suggest a consistent pattern of congressional representative political geography in subprime lending. New Century may have viewed direction of campaign contributions to particular representatives as well as enhancement of subprime credit access to those or other congressional districts as consistent with profit maximization to the extent it helped to buy congressional support for widespread proliferation of this controversial lending instrument among less qualified borrowers. So, I'm sorry, but what more proof do we need? This is the problem. It is the problem. They are buying off our representatives, and that hurts us. In this way, obviously, it's really obvious how it hurt these districts in particular. And it also hurts, of course, in general. As they buy influence, we get none. And this is another article that was linked to this article that just demonstrates, and you can read through it, but it is the natural and logical consequence of these financial crises. This analysis basically says whenever there's a financial crisis, it separates the haves from the have-nots, and it makes more into the have-nots. The haves get bigger, the have-nots get the haves get more money, the have-nots get bigger ranks, we have more people. And they talk about these various crises, but what I really wanted to scroll down and read to you is that the gridlock that we have, political gridlock, it is natural and logical because in the aftermath of a financial crisis, any type of reform, including bailouts, faces a far higher bar for passage. And unfortunately, if a reform overcomes political gridlock, it's not because of efficiency or merit, but because of strong political organization, read money. And so it's no surprise that concentrated special interests such as large U.S. banks got a sizable bailout through TARP, while the diffused special interests, that's you and me, guys, we're diffused, such as mortgage debtors, we did not. We got nothing. This selective intervention may then feed back into further increasing economic and political polarization. And that's exactly what we see. We see the haves taking it, pushing the have-nots, making them a bigger group, which are less and less happy. And so you get more and more polarization and economic troubles. That's why we're in trouble. If they had bailed, just think about it. If when this crisis really started, if they had actually said all the TARP money bailout goes directly into principal reduction for the people, we wouldn't have had a foreclosure crisis. And the people in the economy would have remained solid and firm, and they could have $16 trillion later bailout to the banks. Okay, they could have probably for $3 trillion, $5 trillion bailed out all the people. We'd have had a very good economy, and the banks would be fine. And they also wouldn't be mega banks teetering on disaster with off-balance sheet credit default swaps and derivatives. They bailed out the wrong party because the wrong political party, the banks, had their money and claws into the revolving door. This is why it's, we in a sense, we get what we've been asking for. And that's the people must rise up and start shifting what we ask for. And how do we do that? That's political organization. That's really tough because we're the diffused interest. We don't have the money or the clout. So somehow we've got to figure out how we can shift that. And the internet is going to be real helpful. It already has been. So here's a couple of other quick articles, and then I want to go into the violations and how we can get all of our violations to every attorney general, not just California, not just New York. Let's hit them all. Come on, guys. I don't care what state you're in. All the violations the banks did are ubiquitous. They are everywhere. So let's snag them everywhere. The more the merrier for the people. That's how we're going to get our clout back. I swear to you. I've been saying this now for a year. This is the silver lining of the foreclosure crisis. It's like 12 to 20 million people. You kidding me? And the more the news comes out and the more the fraud and violations come out, like with these articles and links that I've already put now on my live stream page and on my home page, a searchable document of all the links of all the live streams. and all of the mainstream media news in particular, as we spread that out, as more people recognize, look, this was cheating loans. They're violating every rule known that we've ever put into place. We can get these people, we can get organized, and that is the silver lining of this nasty, nasty crisis. So here, this is an interesting little article about the mortgage forgiveness presents challenges in the housing recovery, and how Watt, of course, who has been named as the new director of HFA, may actually want to do. He said he wants principal reduction. Of course, now he's sort of waffling, probably because the banks are in there saying, you better not do that. And here, I wanted to read this, though, because principal reduction is an effective tool in preventing future defaults. I mean, they've discovered it's effective. It keeps people in their homes and more likely to keep making payments. They're talking here about a shared appreciation model. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention. We haven't really talked about it much. And that would require some of the borrowers, if they get the bailout, to share the future appreciation. If prices continue to rise, then the banks, the person that took the principal reduction, took that hit, gets something in back, either 25%, 50%, there's various models. So, for example, in exchange for a write-down of the mortgage to 110 or 115% loan to value, so they're still writing it above market, but the borrower agrees to give up, like, for example, 50% of the upside. Some are 25%. You can read through the article. These are ideas that actually will keep more people in their homes. I suggested that in 2009. So however many years ago that was, I've been talking about it for a long time. I felt it was reasonable, logical, natural, would benefit both parties. They're both taking a hit, but in the end, as the market eventually does recover, which we're all assuming it will, I'm not sure about that assumption anymore these days, but at this point it looks good. At least it keeps people in their homes, and that was one of the things I've really been pushing, of course. I wanted to bring this to your attention. This is not good news for homeowners. The title is "The Stigma of Foreclosure Lifts as Lenders Alienate Borrowers." Okay, so more and more borrowers are getting angry, but what's really nasty about this article, you would think that it would have something to do more or less with, others aren't treating borrowers that are facing foreclosure as nastily, and they're more understanding. But I wanted to read this to you. This is the paragraph I'm highlighting. The Office of the Inspector General at the Federal Housing Finance Agency, FHFA, announced it is trying to find strategic defaulters and collect on what they still owe. The OIG, that's the Office of the Inspector General, says that these walkaways, that constitutes mortgage fraud, and the OIG plans to refer them for criminal prosecution. Experian, one of the 3 large credit bureaus, has estimated that 20% of all foreclosures are from strategic defaulters. Nobody really knows. There you go. Somebody puts a number on it. The OIG estimates that strategic defaulters, if they take the 20%, owe more than $1 billion to Fannie and Freddie, and they're ready to start collecting. So we're not going to just demand repayment. We're going to lock people up. Are you listening? Perhaps the OIG's efforts to prosecute should be in direct proportion to the lender's efforts to reach earlier compromise with the borrower. After all, didn't the country recently bail out the banking industry? So I'm telling you guys, we the people, they're going to come after us for anything and everything, and they're going to make stuff up. And the fact is, for example, take California. I know California laws pretty well. I'm not that familiar with every state. Some do, some don't. Like we obviously know in Hawaii, from what we talked about last week, that they have recourse laws. The lenders can go after the homeowners. Even if they've foreclosed, they can go after the homeowners to collect the difference, the upside down part. And here in California, they cannot. In fact, well, last year, at the end of last year, I think this changed. I think now it's just on purchase money. They cannot go back. It's called lender recourse and collect the difference, the upside down part. But if it wasn't first loans, if it wasn't purchase money, and it was a refinance. Lenders could go after borrowers for that difference. What that means is you borrowed $500, the house is worth $400, they foreclosed, and the $100,000 difference, if you had purchased the property and had a $500,000 loan, in California law, the lender cannot come after you for that difference. Now, does that law apply to Fannie and Freddie? I don't know. Does federal trump state? So this is a real scary little issue that needs some review. And what's so horrible about it is that we know the loans were toxic. We know they cheated on the loans, and they used fraudulent inducement to force the people into this. That's all the people could get. Then they foreclosed and dumped the property. So now they pushed the prices down. So they've pushed all these people underwater. So now they're saying, well, if you didn't have a hardship and just decided not to pay, we're going to lock you up in prison. This is really, really, really scary to me. And I wanted to bring it to your attention because I believe that as we move forward in our prosecution and criminal prosecution of these criminal enterprises that have put the people in this position, we need to start protecting ourselves against some of these other agencies. Anyway, enough said for that for now. And truly, let's keep our eyes and ears open for any more information about this, because locking people up for not paying their loans, that's debtor's prison. That's what they were doing in England. That's why this country got started, because the people said, we're out of here and we're coming over here where we can start fresh and not have that kind of horrific situation. So I think it's full circle, and that's the scary part. Now, on the positive side, let's look at this. Here we've got a Texas class action granted. And the key with this, is it's a securitization fail. Here's the point. This is why Wells Fargo is serving as trustee of the Carrington Mortgage Loan Trust Series 2006-NC3. As trustee, Wells is responsible for the assets, but there is no evidence in the record showing that Wolf's note and security instrument were properly negotiated, delivered, or transferred to all necessary parties in the securitization chain. So here we've got a class action has been granted by the judge based on that securitization transfer we've been talking about, and I'm going to review in just a few minutes so that everyone gets it fresh in their minds again. And then, of course, going to my website, you can watch my little workshop, and you can there's a document there you can use to analyze your documents. But this is classic, because if these people, they got a class certification in Texas, why can't they get a class certification in every state? Let's start pushing for class actions in each state for each loan, each mortgage-backed security, each trust. And so it goes on. This is required in the mortgage loan purchase agreement and the pooling and servicing agreement in order to convey these instruments. This is crucial. This means they violated that, and they're going to get a class action for the people on this, for the borrowers. This is not for investors. This is for the borrowers. And so this is this fatal break in the chain of title. So defendant Wells Fargo is not the current owner, can't be, never was, never will. And they're able to get some class action on that. So come on, guys. This is worth fighting for. This is worth fighting for. Let's get this for our loans and our class actions and our mortgage backs. It's an ideal class. Everybody in that mortgage-backed security is in that class. Here's something else. And this, again, is going back to the chain of title in violation of the pooling and servicing agreement to the closed trust. Here, this is a denial of a summary judgment. That's all it is. But down in the bottom, what is really classic about this is that, and what I wanted to read, is that the assignment of the note and mortgage, obviously what happened is classic, we're going to talk about it in a minute, went from option 1, a lender, directly to the trustee, rather than from the depositor and to the trustee. And of course, that violates Section 2.01 of the PSA. That's the classic section of the pooling and servicing agreement, which requires that the depositor deliver to and deposit the original note, mortgage, and assignments to the trustee. The assignment of the defendant's note and mortgage, having not been assigned from the depositor to the trust, I think the judges are getting it, is therefore void, as in being in contravention to the PSA. The evidence submitted by defendant that the note was acquired after the closing date, and he means the trust closing date, not the escrow closing date, the trust closing date, and that assignment was not made by the depositor, is sufficient to raise questions of fact as to whether the plaintiff owns the note and mortgage, and precludes granting plaintiff summary judgment. Now, this is in a judicial state. The plaintiff is the bank. In a non-judicial state, the plaintiff would be the owner. So they're reversed, so don't let that confuse you. But here you go. Here is another judge denying the bank summary judgment because there's questions. Therefore, the plaintiff's motion for summary judgment is denied. So these lawsuits are gaining some traction, and it is based on what I have called fake beneficiaries. I'm always, coming up with words that make sense to people and trying to summarize all the issues. They're fairly complicated. So what I want to talk about next, I want to talk about the response I got from the California AG's staff on Friday after last Friday's show. I'll read you what they wrote. I want to talk about the foreclosure violations review. I want to talk about how you can get those violations to me and why they should come this way. And also, I want to really emphasize before we close that we must demand every person in every state needs to demand their state do a grand jury, a statewide grand jury investigation. They need to do an investigation and get an injunction against the foreclosure trustee mills or against the banks from submitting foreclosures. We need to stop them because of all these violations. So what I want to talk about next is this is what the AG staff wrote me, and I'm not going to tell you who it is. I'm not going to give out that email for a couple of reasons. One is this has been a private conversation. I privately, as a citizen, analyzed all of these documents and sent it to the AG. Now you have access to all of that, on the live stream. And in fact, I've linked it to those documents that I've connected to the live stream right at the top. And it's on my homepage, HOFJ.org. And also in the comment section are the 18 worksheets. Now, I've removed the property addresses, but the states are there, or the counties, excuse me. And people that whose files they are, they know they've sent me the information. They can recognize it as their file. And that's fine. I don't care. But I just wanted to sort of protect them from media, because right now, we have a private conversation with the Attorney General's office. And so they wrote back to me saying, thank you for the documents and your presentation. We take these allegations extremely seriously. Rest assured, we're devoting the resources to investigate these allegations thoroughly for criminal wrongdoing. And I just wanted to make a break right here. This is the key. Nothing will change until we have criminal prosecution. In a lawsuit with the bank, you're doing civil, and they can walk away from your loan, they can make payments, they can settle, they can do whatever they want, and they can keep doing it to millions and millions of others of us. Only when we get criminal wrongdoing prosecution, I mean putting people in prison for felony forgery, that will change the industry. Then the banks, all the people hired, all the attorneys that are currently knowingly committing all of this perjury and fraud will stop doing that. This is again back from the AG staff. I expect to be in touch with you in the next few weeks. In the meantime, If you have any further information about forged signatures and notaries, please bring it to my attention. Okie dokie. So, you and me, send me your information, but please, I've already put a form of the way I believe I'm going to need to get this. I hope I get dozens of emails. I would love to get thousands of emails. I can set up filters to filter these emails into specific folders. If you will please email them to my email, cjholmes@cjholmes.com, or the HOFJ@cjholmes.com. Either one is fine. But in the subject line, and if you're in California, please say CA space AG colon. And then after that, I recommend that you write in whoever the last entity was you're dealing with. So if it's a foreclosure trustee, write in, Recon Trust, Quality Loan Servicing, Index. But see, Index isn't California, unfortunately. Index is Texas, but I don't really care. Just send them to me. I'll sort through them. I understand this. We'll get them to the right spots. But if you're from Arizona, send it to the AZ. Use the first two initials of your state, if you will. Florida, AG. New York, AG, colon. That way, well, I promise, as soon as humanly possible, we will forward this email intact with attachments to these various AGs all around the country. If you send them to me, then we will know what we've got. We will be able to count, we'll be able to track, we'll be able to follow up. No AG can say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I never got that email." And that's one of the things I'm really trying to fight. At this point, who do we trust? Who do we trust? Do we trust AGs that have already agreed to the settlement and somehow haven't yet been able to file criminal charges? Somehow, I'm not, I don't have a real warm and fuzzy feeling yet about that. Now, if and when all the AGs start filing criminal charges against these banks, and see, I don't even think New York is criminal. They're going to go after them civilly for violating the settlements. That's insane, because they're going to get, the state will get some money. The people will still get screwed. They'll still lose their houses, and all this fraud will still be sitting on all of our recorders' offices and all the books. That's just insane to me. We need every attorney general in every state to file these types of criminal charges. We need to go after these violations because they've literally caused to be recorded a fraudulent instrument on every one of these foreclosure properties, without exception. Every last one of them. So let's go after them. And let's stop them and get them in prison for this crime against humanity and against this country and the people in this country. Now, in your email, it would really help. Please try. Summarize what the issue is. I have a false notarization because she notarized a forged signature and they used a fake beneficiary on my trustee substitution. My assignment. Just try to summarize it really quickly. You got to put yourself in the place. Let's say they were all coming to you. So what if you got 1,000 emails over the next week, and you had to try to figure out by reading through long explanation. Let me explain what happened to me, because I get these emails. They are long, and the people just start talking, which is fine. Do that when you send your email. But then when you're done, go to the very top and say, summary, here's my summary. Read down through what you wrote and say, the summary is blah, 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 blah. They assign this to the trustee of the mortgage-backed security and its fake beneficiary. Boom. And if you have those documents, if you have an audit, if you have a lawsuit, anything that substantiates what you're saying, attach it. If you send it to me, we'll always have those attachments. They can't get lost. They can't get overlooked. So we're in this private conversation right now, and I've not issued a press release. But I believe that once we get this ball rolling and we've submitted, 1,000, several hundred more complaints for investigation, we can start to let this be known. And we must push for statewide grand juries in every state. So even if you're all alone in Kentucky or Tennessee, I've been contacted by people in every state, but typically just a few. So even if you're alone, you're not alone. You're not alone. Just remember that your effort is going to rescue, help save this country from destruction, because right now our judicial system is being destroyed. It's being destroyed, and only when we get our justice back will we have a country. That's why this is also so very, very important. Now, I wanted to talk about the quick foreclosure violations review. Let's just review them. A false notarization is either a forged signature or a notary that notarized a forged signature. So every notarization of a robo signature, which is somebody else made that squiggle mark, that's a false notarization. You know that this is one of the 7 deadly sins. False witness. This is bearing false witness against the people. So a false notarization, a forged signature. Many of us have been trying to work on getting those signatures verified with notary log signatures. I know people are telling me, and I'm uploading them onto my suspicious signature website. You go into foreclosure defense, suspicious signature. There's a whole long list there. But right now, and you can look at that on your own time. Right now, any assignment that was recorded after the notice of default, I've heard, yes, that's illegal, and I've heard, no, it doesn't matter. So I've got it down. If it matters, it matters in the state, because the assignments, who files the notice of default, should have authority to file. So if the party foreclosing didn't have the authority to file, it was somebody else that filed, or they claimed they had the authority and yet they didn't have the authority that was given to them after the notice of default. My reading of the law is that that is illegal. A servicer as assignee. So anytime you have an assignment that says somebody, MERS often, but it'll be somebody assigning the interest to, like, BAC home loan servicing. That is illegal. Servicers cannot be the beneficiaries. An impossible beneficiary, that's what we just talked about in those lawsuits. The impossible beneficiary is the trust of a mortgage-backed security, and often it's like Wells Fargo gives to the trustee of this mortgage-backed, New York Bank Mellon trustee of this blah, 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 whatever the trust is. It's impossible because it didn't follow the pooling and servicing agreement. And now we've got some laws, you've got some lawsuits right here, that links that you can send to others that you know of that may be sort of waffling about sending in their violations. Come on. Right now, we need 12 million violations. Come on, everybody send them in, because as they go out to the attorney general's offices in the states, and we tell them, look at what Schneiderman is doing in New York. These are violations of the consent orders and the cease and desist. The judgments, the district court and the OCC have told these lenders to stop doing this, and of course they haven't. You and I know that. So they use fake attorneys, in fact, a fake agency. They just make it up. I'm an agency, as agent for blah, 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 blah. A fake or missing trustee substitution, an assignment. All of these assignments, without exception, were filed after the mortgage-backed security cutoff date. So if there's any assignment at all on any securitized loan, it wasn't filed before the mortgage-backed security cutoff date. So they're all illegal. They all fall under that lawsuit raising suspicion. They've all violated the pooling and servicing agreement. Does that make sense? Every one of them. Come on, let's get them. Use of a defunct lender. I did find one. I found the use of IndyMac on a loan a year and a half after IndyMac closed. Didn't matter. They took her house. It's just so outrageous. The use of MERS, I believe that's a violation, but many, many states say MERS is fine. And so this is a questionable violation. I think we need to push that it's a violation. I think we can change that, but that's going to have to come with huge political pressure. And then anything that was filed, any filing and recording after 4/13/11, that was when the OCC issued their cease and desist orders. So if any one of those lenders did any of these documents that have any of these violations on them, which of course we know if they filed an assignment, it was after the MBS cutoff date. So if they filed any of those after April 13, 2011, they violated that order. And if they filed anything after April 4th, 2012, they violated the U.S. District Court judgment. So here's what these judgments, what this worksheet looks like, and where I've pulled these violations from. And here's some examples for you to look at. You notice that this is a worksheet, a spreadsheet that I've set up to help people analyze their documents. It's on Homeowners for Justice under item number 4, foreclosure defense item 4. And it's analyzing your suspicious documents. And I have a little workshop there, and I have these links to a blank worksheet plus an example. And these are from the 18 properties that I did as recon trust foreclosure doc violations that I sent to the AG's office. And so you'll notice, see, look, here's an assignment filed in October 2011. Well, that's after April 2011, so of course that violates both the OCC cease and desist, and it also is a violation. It's an assignment after the cutoff date. So it violates the assignment filed after MBS cutoff date. I labeled it as issue I. And you'll note that it's going from MERS to the Bank of New York Mellon, formerly known as FKA, the Bank of New York, as trustee for the certificate holders of Seawalt, blah, blah, blah. And we already know that that's a violation because the depositor has to deposit the notes and mortgages into the trustee, or the trust, the mortgage-backed security trust. And see, right up here, I remind everybody, here's how you do correct mortgage-backed security assignments. I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger here. Hopefully we can see this. How do we enlarge this? Anyway, maybe I can't. It goes from the originator, O, to S, the seller, to D, the depositor, to T, the trustee. And so, for example, the correct assignments and sales would have been, an assignment would have represented an actual sale from the originator, in this case, Home Loans USA, to the seller, in this case, which was Countrywide Home Loans, Inc., to the depositor, which in this case was Seawalt, Inc., to the trustee for the PSA, and this is all coming out of the PSA, the pooling and servicing agreements, to the Bank of New York. And so when this assignment here goes from MERS, who's that? That's not even any one of these. See, MERS just comes out of the ether, and it assigns it to the Bank of New York Mellon. Well, that's not legal. And so that's why I have it as a defective. It's a defective assignment on many stanzas. So based on that defective assignment, of course, you now have a defective substitution of trustee, because this signing company has no authority. Of course, they used a robo-signer. And of course, then on that, they've based the notice of default. And then here's a fake agency, Recon Trust Company NA, as agent for the beneficiary. Now, if you look at the notice of default, it says to contact, if you have any questions about your foreclosure and the payments, blah, 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 contact the Bank of New York Mellon, formerly known as blah, 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 blah. But I have here as capital B, that's the beneficiary. The beneficiary is in favor of MERS, Inc. as beneficiary. So now you've got, according to this document, Recon Trust Company NA is agent for MERS. Really? That's what I mean. These documents are fake. They make them up and they take these houses. And this is an outrage. We must stop this nonsense and forgery and fraud and theft of our homes. So let's review these violations. If you have any document that you, even just one document, an assignment, a notice of default, any document that you have that violates any of these, particularly they're asking for right now, false notarization and forged signatures. And I believe the reason that they're looking at that is because it's real easy to prove. Two things. It's real easy. Are you a robo-signer or not? Did you work for that company or not? As you saw in the NBC expose, which the links are, again, here I'm going to show you what I've got linked up on my on live stream and my homepage on Homeowners for Justice. I've got the comments from weekdays live and workshops, and the newest are on top. So here's my AG presentation right there. You can link to it. Here's the link to the foreclosure defense page and the Bugger the Bankers. I thought you might like the song link. And then here's the mainstream media links that are real handy to just start shooting out to all of our news media in our counties and areas and contacts that we know. But here's where all the shows start, and every week I will do this. So here's all of these links are live, and they are all searchable. So you can go Control F and you can type in Matt Taibbi or just Taibbi, and up will come the links that we've got in these various shows where he's had an article or a discussion, because I've tried to make sure to label everything as we've been going into this encyclopedia. This is really the history of the foreclosure fight. So use this, just pass this document on to people. I had a problem with my cell phone. I went into Verizon, started talking to somebody, showed them how I could live stream on my cell phone, and that led to the foreclosure issue. And I sent him this link that he can now look at everything, knowing. I told him, hey, you got to listen to Matt Taibbi. You have to listen to them. April 29, Kaiser and Taibbi talking. They actually just point blank call these banks criminal enterprises. The people need to hear this. Everybody needs to hear this. Let's get this out. So that is the point of part of this effort, is to get this information in an easy way to use. Blast it out everywhere. Put these on Facebook. I will update these every week. So if you have this linked out, just renew that link, refresh it with a new link at the end of next Friday's show. And try to help people that you talk to focus on the simple stuff. This is pretty complicated. You and I both know that. And if you have an audit, send it. But, for people that are just going, foreclosures are wrong? What? then tone it way back. And let's just start talking about, robo-signatures means they forged those signatures. It wasn't the real people signing. And then they notarized them. So that's really false notarization. People get that. And so that's what I recommend we do. And again, this is one of the main pushes for today. I believe, because I don't believe we need to contact all the staff people right now. Let's just funnel it, send them to me. I'll funnel it to the people that need it. Okay, let's let them remain anonymous for now. Let's let them do their job, but let's call the front desk and hammer for a statewide grand jury. We want this investigated. We want this now. We want you to stop allowing the banks and their foreclosure mills to file these forged documents, and use the New York Schneiderman's lawsuit for violations of the cease and desist orders and the consent judgments. They are violating the rules. They're breaking the law. They're not abiding by what they said they would do. And what that means is they are breaking our laws and statutes. They're committing fraud. We may have a harder time getting the AGs to prosecute. Well, I don't know. Depends. They can start doing RICO, criminal enterprises and white collar crime enhancements. I mean, those things have been mentioned to me by the AG staff. So let's push for that. Let's use those words. It is a RICO. It is a criminal enterprise without a doubt. And that's easier to prove than fraud. So let's push for that. Let's hit them in the front door while we feed them information in the back door. Okay? That's how I see this working probably the best for the people. Because right now, we do not want Recon Trust, Bank of America, Wells Fargo to start shifting their tactics. We don't want them to see it coming, okay? Let's get all of our ducks lined up, because once the statewide grand juries are in effect, it'll be too late. That I swear. That's why they're doing this investigation sort of on the side, quietly. They're not making an announcement. I mean, if they do, that's great. But at this point, they haven't asked me to make an announcement, and I'm feeling that my announcement really needs to be to the people. We need to get the violations. We need to rack up these violations. We need to show them the incredible breadth of the violations so that they can research this and they can get their ducks lined up. So when they have a grand jury, it's basically a showcase for their case. And they've already got thousands of cases proving the fraud, proving the fake beneficiaries, proving the defective paperwork in these foreclosures, proving that the banks never had the authority to do this in the first place. And they don't. But we're going to have to prove that. And in the process, when it's proven that they never had the authority, so they faked all this paperwork, talk about a criminal enterprise. Talk about a racketeering. That's when we'll make a humongous change for the people. And the consequences, the positive consequences for the people, we'll try to be right in there, shifting them, making sure that the people get some justice, get a house back, get some settlement money other than $300, get really some justice for them. Something. And as we go, we'll have to figure out what that is. We don't know yet. So just as a quick refresher, send me your violations. Please, in the subject line, use your state 2 letters and AG colon. It'll be easier for me to sort through the mails that way and make sure that we're forwarding the right violation to the right party. Summarize your issue, please. Just think about it if it was yourself. You had 10,000 emails. Okay, you'd want to be able to just real quick, boom, boom, boom. Oh, here's one for that. Oh, here's one for that. To be able to sort through, because each violation, each individual has different violations. So summarize it and then attach whatever documents, audit, or lawsuit, just attach it. We'll forward that to the AG's office. And let's see. Let's work hard. Now's the time to push. Let's put this out on our Facebook pages. Let's send this in the email and our blast emails to everybody. Let's let them know we've got some ears to the ground. We've got some people listening to us. We've got some insiders. Let's not, rock the boat too much. Let's just feed them all the violations until they can stand up and then say, something? Eric Schneiderman's not the only one that's going to sue these people, and we're going to criminally prosecute them for this RICO enterprise. That's close to my heart. Come on, guys, we can do this. That's what I want to see. So take a look at these, list again, remind yourself how it goes. If you ask me for help, I'm apologizing. I probably won't be able to help you, because I've just got too many things, too many irons in the fire right now. But I have been getting some volunteers. They're stepping up and they're saying, I'll help. So if you're willing to help and understand, answer some people's questions about these things, please let me know so that I can start shunting off some of these requests, because everybody's desperate. They're desperate. That's why I want to stop this at a national level. I'd love the Department of Justice should be stepping up. And of course, Eric Holder isn't. So let's just hammer him because that is where they got him. He's a bank attorney and they've bought him off. He's not going to do this. And that is why the people are suffering. Another major reason why the people are suffering. So we just keep the pressure up where we're at. Take these violations and let's get county grand juries started if you can. If you have an amenable district attorney, a recorder, supervisor in your counties, let's push to start a county grand jury because the grand juries at the county level will connect with the state level. So we could actually put pressure on at the county level. So let's push. Thanks, guys. That's about it for today. I just really wanted to focus on what's going on, the opportunity we have, how we can really make a difference if we just keep pushing. And we definitely need to bugger the bankers and the politicians and the bureaucrats. And this is one way. Let's go after them criminally. Let's chop them on their feet. This is what they stand on. They stand on these forged documents. That is the foundation of this entire edifice. Let's chop that foundation out. Let's bring them down. Thanks, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Let me know how you're bugging the bankers. Appreciate all your effort and help. See ya.
And the money's all spent. We're badgered from every direction. The workers get taxed while the wealthy relax. With nary a moment's reflection.
Where there's grass, there's muck.
And they don't give an ass. There's a program against insurrection. And I say, bugger the bankers and politicians. Bugger the bureaucrats too. Bugger the buggers who make up the rules. And if you're one of them, bugger you. And if you're one of them, bugger you.
Now all you good people with passion to vent, don't give up the struggle for justice. But I've done my time on the protesters' line, and these days I show my dissent.
By loitering within my tent. And I say, bugger the bankers and politicians. Bugger the bureaucrats too. Bugger the buggers who make up the rules. And if you're one of them, bugger you. And if you're one of them, bugger you. Oh, bugger the bankers and politicians. Bugger the bureaucrats too. Bugger the buggers who make up the rules. And if you're one of them, bugger you. And if you're one of them, bugger you. And if you're